What is happening, guys? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. I am Mike Spider Slayer from a Comic Book Corner 2.0. And of course, next to me is Cat Comic Uno.
Hello, guys.
And we definitely will have Brant Fowler coming on, but he's just running late. That's just us, man. We're always fashionably late. Like, there's three of us trying to come on, and one way or another, none of us are ever on time. We're all
No,
scattering. And you think
happened once.
you think we would because of how late it is, but that's why this show is so late to begin with, because you're working, I get done with work, and then Brant I know is working as well. But what happens is he sleeps during the day and wakes up later in the evening time, and then he works like overnight.
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
I could not. And also, we started 10:15 because of that too. Because I feel like we're always so fashionably late with 10 o'clock. We're like, let's just push it to 10:15 to give us the
Yeah,
wiggle
now
room.
it's like 10:21. That's our latest, like 10:21. So
They were like, we got to get on. But there's so much to talk about. We were just talking about that. We are saying like, man, there's so many comics to talk about. There's a lot of news to talk about this week, and then like next week or tomorrow there's not as many books that come out. I like the comic chef's name.
Yeah, I can make a live feed, and Tevi is on the show as well. And couching and slouching with C Bizzle. It's this. Hey
I like the
everyone.
names.
Yeah.
Hello.
I want to know. This week was a pretty big week for comic books, so I want to know in the comments below, how many comics did you guys pick up this past comic book week? Not starting today, but this past comic book week. Did you get as many as I got, or even Kat? She got a lot this week. You got how
15.
many? 15. I got 22 books. Actually, I think I got 23 books that I bought, and I did not read one of them, and I read one digitally as well. So
Couchin got $90 worth of comics. That is a lot. I usually just give my credit card and try not to look at the price. I was like, okay, I think I know the range of it. But usually I'll spend I'll say $30 to $60. I don't think I'll usually go over 60 for my books.
Philosopher King got 12 books last week.
That's not, and then Willie got 23.
23. That's the MJ. That's the MJ number.
And then Comic Toby got $160 worth of books. That is
wow,
oh man, everyone spends more money than I do. The neighbor Merc says
72, which is a ridiculous amount for 17 books. Think about that. If you go back to like when I was reading comics when I was like 15, 16 years old, I don't know. Comics were like, and I know like people older than me will say, well, I remember comics when they were 50 cents, but when they were $1, just think if you bought 22 comic books, it would run you $22. Isn't that crazy?
Maybe some taxes. You say it's 25, but yeah, no, it was a lot cheaper back in the day than what it is now. My books are $61. And Survival says there's a $60 worth, but that's almost every comic book day. And the name changes to that. I didn't pick up my books, but tomorrow I plan on remedying that. So that's good. So you guys have a lot of books that you've picked up, and we are going to talk about the comics, which I'm very excited for. I was telling Mike that I was like, oh man, it's kind of crazy. There's some weeks where like my top book will be Lucky, a 4-star book, and then like this week I finally had a perfect book that in my mind that came out, and I don't think I've had that since probably December, since Do a Powerbomb. I was like, I don't remember if there was one. But yeah, I'm excited that there's a lot of good books this week, and I still hope that in the smaller weeks I have books that surprise me, because I think those are the weeks and the opportunities for books to surprise you, like days like tomorrow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mr. Negative, he says try to keep it around $30 a week, right?
Which is good.
I read mine online, which I can understand. I just buy Image Comics right now, so that comes below $20.
Damn. Yeah, they have cheaper. They definitely have cheaper issue ones.
I pick up at least 12, so that's good. It's not bad. I hate comics. Are $20.
Oh man,
We'll
if they
come.
get to $20, I
Yeah.
don't think I could buy
Yeah.
those.
It's I wish if they raised prices on comics, right? Like I wish they would do them like they used to when it was $1, it was like $1.25, $1.50, $1.75. Now they just skip over those and they just go right to the dollars. It's like, oh, it's two ninety
Yeah,
nine. Oh, now it's $3.99. Now it's $4.99. Oh, we got five
we're
ninety nine. It's like,
we're at the
well, what about all
4.99 for
the other
sure.
numbers in between, right?
Oh, there's no sense anymore. I do want to read Parker Luck. I spent nothing in comics. Said my brother Michael and I saw Cocaine Bear, and it was awesome. I did see Cocaine Bear this week, and I thought it was okay. I think
Yeah.
there's like a fun kill in there, but I actually think Sharknado was more of a fun movie than Cocaine Bear, surprisingly enough.
Well, when you see
And I was supposed
Sharknado for the first
Mhm.
time, I remember watching that. I was just like, what the hell is happening? You know what I'm saying? It's just it's so off the wall, you know?
I wanted that same feeling for Cocaine Bear though, because like that's what kind of sold you is just absurdity, and
Right.
I'm like, oh, it's just absurd enough. It definitely wasn't a bad movie, but I was like, I wanted a little bit more from it. I go to the movies once a week, so there's always going to be ones that aren't to my flavor, but
Exactly. Oh, excuse me. All right. Long day for me today. All right. So we want to jump into these comics then?
yeah. Well, I think we have one more question, then we'll jump into
Oh, okay.
comics. Willie asks, "What do you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp 3?" I also thought it was just okay.
I didn't see it
I
yet.
I would want to see your opinion on it. I think Cassie and Scott are good in it. The plot is just okay. I think Kang was good. I think it has promise for the future, but as a movie itself, it's fine.
Right. This is good. This will go into our topic in a little bit when we talk about it. So since the Ultimate Universe is coming back, I bought a hardcover collection of Mark Miller's and Brian Hitch's Ultimates. That's
Oh,
pretty
nice.
awesome. When we do talk about it, I do the comment I want to say though is I do think that it's awesome that Hickman is writing that title to kind of bring it back since he is the one that destroyed it. I think that is really, really cool. So looking forward to it. All right,
Definitely.
so let's dive into these comic books. Hopefully, Brant comes on in a second here. Guys, before we get started, please make sure you give this stream a thumbs up. Let people know that it exists out there. It definitely helps, whether it's on Comic Book Weekly or Comic Book Corner 2.0. The show has been doing really good post live, but of course, we would always love more live viewers. I know it's late, it's hard sometimes, but spread the word about this show because we love talking about our comic books each week and all that comic book news. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about the newest Superman book that was released this week, Superman issue 1. What did you think about this newest issue, Kat?
I thought it was really solid. It kind of has the promise of Robin, where it feels like it's building towards something. And this is coming from someone who doesn't love Superman. I think they really set up a nice world. They set up Lois and Clark really well. They set up the Lex Luthor dynamic really well. It feels new. It kind of feels like World's Finest in a way where it feels new but old at the same time. The artwork's obviously gorgeous because it's the same artist who did Naomi. So I thought it was really solid. I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes.
I felt like when I read it, it felt like a breath of fresh air. It felt fresh. It felt reinvigorated. You know what I'm saying? Like I really enjoyed it. I love the feel of Superman, how he was much more, I don't know, lighthearted. I loved Lois in the book as well. I liked their relationship with each other, Jimmy Olsen. I love the way they were introduced in the comic book. Um, the one thing I didn't like maybe was like with Parasite in the book. I don't really care about that creature, you know what I'm saying? But I like the overall story, how Lex is trying to build something or convince Superman to do this whole Supercorp situation and
Yeah.
whatnot. I like that. I really did enjoy that. Overall, it was a great book, and I probably wasn't so excited for a Superman book for the first time in a really long time after reading in issue 1. I could say that I was excited about Action Comics, even though I still knew it was like an anthology book. I was still really excited for it. But after I read it, I'm like, it was like, I don't know, like it hit me that I was like, oh yeah, it is an anthology book, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but this book is a real story. And I was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for.
And I like the idea that Superman, like, there's a really interesting line where you're like, it's kind of weird that Superman has never done this, where he's like, oh, why am I always so hard on Lex? Like, I'm always looking for hope in people, and like everyone can kind of turn around. Why don't I see that in Lex? And I thought that was a really interesting take, because it's something that's like, yeah, why haven't we explored this story before?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited about that. Got a
Oh man,
comment
this
here.
next.
Mr. Negative says the art in Superman was incredible. Never liked Superman much, but this issue was so lighthearted and fun. Yeah, absolutely.
I was confused about the secret identity aspect, because I was reading and Brandt's actually on.
Yep.
We're talking about Superman, Brandt, but I did have a question about Superman because I was like, all right, do people know that he's Clark Kent is Superman?
No.
They're supposed to erase it, but I thought they were going to do that later.
No, they already
did.
They already
They
did it.
did in action?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
why.
Okay, I didn't read it.
Yeah, that's what happened to Perry White. He had some kind of, it was either stroke or heart attack when those mememories were conflicting when they did that wipe. So
that's
I
the same
definitely
thing
did
that
not
happened.
read
That
that issue.
nobody remembers. I remember talking about this.
Mhm.
Nobody also remembers that John is Superboy.
right.
Yes.
Also, so which
Yes,
means that
you're
they don't
right.
remember that he is queer. So
Yes.
that makes a whole other story for something else in the future. So I don't know, but we'll see with that. But nevertheless, though, that the overall story was good. I was just a little bit confused at the end. A couple of my viewers on my channel kind of cleared it up to me who they think the Superman was at the table. They think that was Bizarro Superman.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah. So but overall, it was fun. What did you think of it, Brant?
I really liked this issue. I thought it was a great first issue. It felt fun. It felt like Superman that I remember, but still with new twists and new, direction for it and everything. So it felt very familiar and new at the same time, which I appreciated. I love the art. I thought it was, vibrant and fun, like a Superman book should be, in my opinion. I love the twist of, he's dealing with Lex Luthor's enemies, and now he's got to reluctantly take that help and all that stuff. I thought there were a lot of great layers to this story, so I really enjoyed it.
It's good. Absolutely. Glad we liked it. Can't wait. It almost reminded me a little bit of like the original Superman movies in a way, the way he was presented in that comic book, like either the first Superman, maybe even more like the second Superman. I thought he felt like that.
Yeah, exactly. So they were able to like capture that essence, but still do something new and hopefully fresh with it. We'll see. How it goes.
Exactly. I like this comment right here. They have begun the process of de-Bendenizing Superman.
That's a
funny.
new verb.
Yeah. Kenneth is on the show, says, hey, guys. So welcome. All right. So we asked the audience, Brant, like how many comics everybody bought this week. We got answers across the board, like 12, 22, 18, spent 70, spent 90, spent 120. How many comics did you get this past week?
I'm trying to remember because there were like 3 I didn't get to read. I think like 24.
So you've read the most, which I'm not surprised by. You usually end up reading most. We do have a super chat by Comic Toby. Thank you so much. $5. First world problem. I spent all my allowance at the slots. Should I return my new shoes for new comic books? I have a bunch of shoes and comics. Well, I know there is definitely a market where you can sell your sneakers. So,
I mean, if you like the shoes, I mean, it's up to you.
Keep your shoes.
All right. So we're going to move on to the next one, $50 a month. And that's like 10 books a month.
Yeah.
10 books a week.
At least 12 books a week myself. So I spend a lot more than that. All right. Oh, God. Here we go. Amazing Spider-Man issue 20.
Let's talk about the sister. Let's talk about it. Oh, man. What's so funny about that comic, I read it pretty early on. Like, I read it, like, before the whole comments about MJ being a sister came out. I'm like, am I the only one who thinks this is weird? So I made it like the topic of my video. And then I started seeing like a couple of days later on Twitter, people actually like making memes and talking about it. But
yeah,
I thought the other issue was okay. I really didn't like this issue.
I agree with you, actually. This issue was just kind of there. The comments aside about the sister thing, which I'll give my opinion on in a minute. But yeah, the issue itself, it was just like, okay. Last issue, like you guys said, you both loved the first part. I thought it was a solid issue all the way through, but this one was just like your typical action thing. This could have been solved in like 5 pages, this whole issue. So,
and I felt bad for Black Cat because I think she's such a great character, and they've really not shown that in this story.
Yeah. So I think the sister thing, like I feel like it was supposed to be Peter kind of. Yeah, it was supposed to be jokey. It was supposed to be Peter trying to soften the blow to that he still has feelings for her, to Black Cat, and just choosing the wrong words. But I don't think it, obviously from the feedback in the backlash, I can't talk tonight. The backlash across social media, it did not land like it was supposed to. So that's my opinion on it. But I didn't read too much into it though.
It's like this, it was purposeless. There was nothing there. It was just this big stupid fight that meant absolutely nothing at the end of the day. And then there was just some dumb interactions when it came to him and Felicia. And I just was just like, come on, man. Like, this story did not need to exist in this run. It just was not needed.
It was a filler.
Exactly. And sometimes there's filler stories that lead into, say, the next story or something.
Or just fun.
Yeah, but this wasn't.
This wasn't even like fun in my opinion, because it was just like, I think a great example of a fun issue that's a filler is, I go back to that Tom King Carnival issue, where it's like, did you necessarily need that issue? No, but it was fun to see those characters interact in a carnival setting. And I thought this arc was going to be Black Cat and Spider-Man having a fun time and like just seeing them team up, but there was no character interaction.
No. So here's what I was hoping for. And I mentioned this last time when the last issue came out, and I was hoping for just, remember when I talked about like Peter and Felicia having a great date with each other, interacting with maybe Paul and, MJ, and just having it be an awkward date, but not giving away major plot points to the story or whatever it is. So my perfect example, it's like World's Finest, right? With Robin and Kara. Something as that nature. That's what I was kind of looking for in this 2-issue story arc. Something just like that. And I felt like it missed the mark. Like, again, we didn't need that Silicone 6. We just didn't need those people in here. They didn't need to fight a villain, right? And they were purposeless. It was nonsense. And I made this comment, and I'll stick by it here. If these next few issues do not get people interested or produce a story to where people are going to like, holy cow, especially when you say and put that out there that issue 25 and 26 are going to be the best issue or the most monumental or groundbreaking issue or most memorable issue since Gwen Stacy's death, and that doesn't deliver, I will probably say that this could be potentially the worst run of Amazing Spider-Man in history.
I think it's getting there, because the Nick Spencer run wasn't as bad.
This is going to be it. When you don't have anything that's happening in the comic book, you stick an artist, no offense to John Romita Jr. I know people love his artwork, but personally, I think for Spider-Man these days, he doesn't fit the bill. And so when you stick an artist like that on there, and you have a story that doesn't go anywhere, and now you promise something big, and if that doesn't happen after you had pretty much a failed event, I don't know. I think this is going to be the worst possible run, in my opinion. We'll see, but it could be. At least with Spencer's run, it started off strong, and then it kind of like dragged out at the end, but it had really good issues in there.
Yeah, I even think about the J. Jonah Jameson issue. That was kind of in the middle of that run, and that was really good. The whole podcasting stuff. There was always like a point to the stories, and I feel like so far there hasn't been a story in this whole entire run. I can't tell you one plot point besides the teasing of MJ. Like, what has actually happened in this run thus far?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened. There have been cool little arcs like Tombstone. There's been good fights, but nothing really, significant has happened. It has been a tease, and we're getting up to that point now where things are going to, start heating up, and let's hope it's delivered. I'm still optimistic, but I'm very, very worried. And does it mean I'll still drop? I will never drop the book. But I'm
No.
very, very worried for this particular run.
That is the question that people are asking in the comments, though. Do you believe people will finally, like, obviously we won't because we're huge Spider-Man fans, but do you think numbers are going to go down? And honestly, I would be curious to see what the numbers have been, because I know they haven't released it since the Diamond stuff, so we don't actually know where the numbers are. Yeah, I wonder, is this the lowest Spider-Man has been? Like, what in the last 5 years, what was the highest? My guess would be Dan Slott's run. Maybe the beginning of Nick Spencer's run, because obviously it was Nick Spencer and Ryan Otley, but I'd be curious about all that.
Yeah, I would too. I don't know. It's hard to say like, oh, the worst run ever, but man, I'm trying to rack my brain. Like, the only other time that I was like, was the JMS run, but it was only parts of that run that I didn't love and I dropped.
Who did a lot of the artwork in that too?
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I don't know. We'll see. Let's just hope that everything is we're gonna be freaking excited in the next few issues. But that next one is a big one too, man. They're like, this is it. Here we go.
Tevye has an interesting point. One More Day is the worst story ever. You know what's so interesting about One More Day is that, and I always state this, I don't think One More Day is a badly written story. I think it's obviously we don't agree with the plot points, and I think plot wise it was weird. But if you read the book, like, it follows a narrative, it's kind of interests you if you'd never read it before. You didn't know that they were going to break up. Something happens in the story. I would say the stories these two issues, in my opinion, were weaker than One More Day. Obviously, I don't agree with what happens, but it was good writing. And obviously people still talk about it, so it's good writing.
So it did something right. I mean, yes, it may not be what you wanted out of the character, but it doesn't mean it was written poorly, right? There's a way a book is written, and then there's just a plot that you did not enjoy.
Yeah, it's like, I think Brand New Day was worse than One More Day, actually. So, yeah, and like the other stuff, and the Green Goblin with Gwen Stacy's kids and all that stuff. I thought that was worse. I didn't like the outcome of One More Day, but as a story, I don't think it was bad. So.
And there was even some good emotional beats. Again, taking the fandom out of me, but the moments leading into that kind of big story, you get to see Peter talk to his potential daughter. Like, those are good emotional beats that happen, and that's good writing subjectively. And again, it's like good writing is like The Sopranos. Let's give an example of that. The last episode of The Sopranos, people don't agree with what happened, but you can't say it was bad writing because people to this day are still talking about it.
Right. Yep. All right, so let's keep our fingers crossed with Amazing Spider-Man, but I have a feeling we might be having the same type of conversation maybe in a couple weeks, right?
And Ellis Lost Card says, Amazing Spider-Man's always sold out on my local comic book shop. I think it also depends on how much your local comic book shop orders, because there's books that they maybe only order 3 copies or 5 copies and it sells out, but that just means they didn't get a lot of copies.
My shop
see their
sells
clientele.
My shop sells a lot of them. They order a lot though too, so it's still popular. I still think it's probably like number 2 behind Batman. I probably think,
you think
a lot of comic readers, I think, read Spider-Man.
It's Spider-Man.
Yeah, it just is. Yep. All right, let's talk about the newest book from Image, one of the newest books, The Local Man, issue 1. I love this book, man. I thought this
Yeah,
book
this
was
is
a
good.
lot of fun.
It was
I
good.
loved how it was one of those flip covers. Like when I got it in my hands, I was like, "Oh, damn, I didn't know this." I'm like, "So you get to choose which story you want to read first, when he was a superhero or where he got kicked out of being a superhero." And I loved both stories. I love how it kind of paid an homage to like 90s superhero stuff, and just the way, like, even how Image was back then, like they paid homage to that and stuff like that. But I loved our character, how he went back home, he got kicked out, he's trying to you know, build a relationship again with his parents. You don't know kind of like what happened, except that, he broke his contractual agreements, in the issue too. It was just overall a great and fun read. I like the artwork. I'm looking forward to knowing more about this particular character and what's going on with him.
And art was
Yeah.
really good for it too.
Yeah.
It definitely caught my interest. I thought it did what a first issue should do. Kind of like you said, you had the air of mystery. You were like, oh, I really want to read this next issue because I want to know what he did. And you feel for the character already in issue 1. They build a really interesting ensemble. Like you said, the flip book portion made it unique. I thought it was a really good start.
I'm glad I read like the actual story before the flashback thing though. So,
Yeah.
because if I'd read that first and thought that's what it was, I probably wouldn't have continued with it. Just I mean, I as an homage and as kind of back matter to support that story, I get it, and I like the way that it was handled because they kind of worked it into the whole Image superhero universe that way. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, I enjoyed the book, and I like how he's just not only is he down and out and down on his luck, but he's getting kicked at every step from everyone, including his parents. And
Can't
it's
you
just
get
like,
Uber?
yeah. I mean, it's just like he can't fall any further. So how does he climb back out? So that's the interesting thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Great book overall, man. I was surprised by it. I mean, I was looking forward to it, but I had no idea what the story was really truly going to be about. So, yeah, I can't wait for the next issue. So, with that being said, let's kick it off with the top 5. Number 5. My number 5 was Local Man.
Nice.
Yep. I love that cover though, man. That cover is cool. Right?
Yeah, it's a good homage.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Love that stuff. What about you, Brent?
I was still putting mine together as we came live. I will go with just by default the Flash. It wasn't the strongest issue of this whole crossover, but I still enjoyed it. I like there was a nice moment with Irie and I forget her name.
Jesse.
Yes, Jesse. I like that moment, and the stuff between Wally and Perry.
Yeah,
those interactions were really strong.
Yeah, I like the strategy parts as they're trying to come up with the strategy to take on the Fraction, and then at the end they're like all confident that they're going to win, and nope, that's not what happened. The bad guys came and got the upper hand at the end. Again, I thought it was good. I thought it was a fun time.
No, it's not bad. I mean, it's my number 5, obviously.
Yeah,
it just I thought some of the other issues in this
were better.
Were a little bit better. Yeah,
yeah,
that's all.
I thought it was a solid issue.
Yeah.
Next one has to do with Irie, right? How she's going to be like the hero in that issue.
Yeah, which I like.
It's a good event. It's definitely like it flows really well. It's very simple, but again, the character actions were well done here.
All right. We got a question here. Speaking of 90s Image comics, are you guys going to pick up the new issues of Battle Chasers from Joe Madeira?
Nope.
I never read the series, so
yeah, I don't think I am either. Not 100% sure, but I don't think so. All right. So, Kat, what was yours?
Mine was actually She-Hulk. I was surprised by this issue. I liked it because I thought it did the emotional ramifications of Jen really well, where she truly believes she's lost him, and you kind of see this kind of almost breakup moment for her, and her still going through her day to day. And then by the end, you're like, oh my God, can they be together? And probably not. And I just enjoyed it. I thought it was a really solid character issue.
Yeah, I mean, superheroes can't ever last in a relationship.
Exactly, right? Especially She-Hulk.
Yeah. No, it was good. It's always a solid read, this book. It didn't quite make my top 5, but I did enjoy the issue, and I like those aspects of it as well. And Jack kind of trying to protect her and, you know, pushing her away at the same time. It's, you know, it's classic, you know, romantic, classic superhero and classic, you know, romance stuff when you're, you know, you got a relationship that's not quite working. So
it wasn't for me.
Really?
I'm not into this book, man. I'm not.
I don't think you like Rainbow's writing.
I don't think so.
I just, what it is, it's just like there's nothing happening in this book. I'm reading a love story, and it's like, that's fine. I don't mind the love story, but I need something else. And I'm not saying I'm going to drop it because it's Jen, you know what I'm saying? But it's just like, I need something more than just her being sad about Jack of Hearts, you know? And now she's in denial about, I don't know, about him having his powers back, or if they're going to still have this relationship. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just, I didn't get an issue for a while, right? And so I was hoping for something more, right? And it was just sitting around sulking how I miss Jack of Hearts. And I get it. You're in love. That's fine. But I don't know.
I think they're building towards the Avengers finding out, and that's when we'll get an action issue. But also, even when you get an action issue, it's more usually the character-driven stuff. So this is definitely more Rainbow Speed. I will say I think Runaways did a little bit of a better job because there was multiple characters. Right, it wasn't just one character. So if there was an emotional moment with Carolina and Nico, there was usually some action with Gert.
Or mystery or something,
Exactly. So there's I do think she's a little better at ensembles, but this is a lot of her style of writing. I do think she did it better in Runaways, though. I still like the series a lot because I enjoy her writing, but Runaways for me did it better.
Like, how many issues are we in? What issue was this?
10.
So we're 10 issues in, and so far we've had how many issues of her sitting around eating pizza, drinking wine, talking, hooking up, doing all these things. And how much other interactions has she had with other characters outside of the Marvel universe? And like, even her being in the courtroom is very minimal. Like, she's an attorney, and we got to see that for like a panel in this comic, you know, but we've seen that very little in here as well. And as much as I want her to be in a relationship, I want her to interact with other people. And I just feel like
I thought her moment with Patsy was good in this.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's about Jack of Hearts, but
again, but it's her talking about Jack of Hearts, you know? And so I don't know. That's just me. And I don't think I'll drop the book, but it's like, it's one of those things where I'm hoping for something a little bit more.
Yeah, I get that.
All right. So that was Cat's number 5. So then we just move on to Lazarus Planet Omega. This is issue 1.
I did not like it.
This doesn't accomplish anything really either. It's just a big battle, big brawl. I think it's an art book, basically. You know, if you like that style of artwork, it brings you into almost like this fantasy aspect.
I didn't even like the art. I thought it was too realistic. I didn't like the faces.
I didn't mind the art. I thought there were a few panels that were a little off, but overall I didn't mind the art. But what aggravated me was this wasn't the end of the story. It's Omega, but it's continuing in the Batman versus Robin.
Right.
And why that book? It's issue 5 of Batman versus Robin. Just like it's such
a
be about the other way around, if anything.
Fixing their relationship. I think that's what it is going to be about.
I don't even really love Batman versus Robin. I remember that had such promise. I'm like, I'm just picking it up just because I like Batman, but I want to see it through.
Yeah, and then I didn't love the backup story either because it's like I don't read that book. I don't
Right.
care.
Oh, I
about
didn't even read that.
Yeah.
I skipped
But
that one.
it just, I guess that's the issue that you have, right? When you have one particular writer write the alpha issue, and then you
Mhm.
got all this stuff in between, and then you got the omega issue, and it's frustrating, right? I guess. And I appreciate that super
Yeah.
sticker there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comic Toby, that's awesome. And then also he's been a member of my channel for 9 months as well. So
Nice.
congratulations on that. But yeah, going back to that, it just, I don't know. There was just nothing there, I think, at the end of the day, right? I mean, there was no solid story. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna battle you, I'm gonna battle you, and then all the magic goes away, and then they all become back to normal. And that was it, right?
Yeah, I mean the only takeaway is that the way magic works has changed. And it's like if you're not reading the magic stuff, then that doesn't really affect, except for maybe Power Girl.
Right. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's move on from that because I can see we're all very excited to talk about that
So
one.
excited.
Next one is Immortal X-Men. This is issue 1. Kat doesn't read the event, so I know Brant and I did. This is the one with Emma Frost in it, right? And I felt like this issue took a little while to get to where it needed to, but once Emma Frost was involved messing around with Sinister, I thought that's when the issue actually got good.
Yeah, exactly. Up till then, I was like, "Oh man, this is boring."
Yeah.
It was just like a lot of talking. But yeah, once they started interacting, it did get a lot better. So that second half of the book was a lot stronger. But I still didn't love it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's
So
good, but
yeah,
it's
it's
not
good.
the best.
Right.
What they did let Mr. Sinister back on the council under these
Yeah.
conditions, obviously, right?
Yeah. And
I don't know.
apparently they've developed the ability to use other people's gifts. So Emma had a Logan patch and was able to grow her arm back immediately.
Yes. Because that's
And
all because of Mr. Sinister, you know?
yeah, and Sinister could fly for a little bit and just little things like that. So it was interesting. And
Yeah, exactly. So I don't
also,
know.
yeah, it
Go
was
ahead.
also interesting seeing some of the characters' actual personalities coming through, like Professor X crying and stuff like that, even though he's a sinister whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the best part was like when Mr. Sinister went running and then
Mhm.
Emma went chasing after him. And then you got that page on the side of all the places he was running to by the time Emma caught up with him.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I love Paco Medina's artwork. I think his
Mhm.
artwork makes the book, right? I
Yeah.
think if you don't have if you don't have a solid artist on that book, you could lose it on that.
Oh,
one.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's move on. Saga issue 52. Oh, we got a comment here. I find it hard to care about Sins of Sinister since it seems obvious that they are going to revert back to the previous timeline at the end of this story. Who knows
Well,
what's going to happen at the end of this story, though?
I mean, that's comics in general, though, right? It's like if the story and the journey of the story is interesting and fun and entertaining, and it takes you somewhere, even if it reverts back, then I think it's worth it.
I agree.
Whether this one's going to be worth it or not, I don't know.
Right.
We'll see.
I agree. Let's see. Where were we at? We were at Saga, issue 62. So, what'd you think about this one, Kat? They're playing around with the resurrection of Marco. Like that's kind of a plot point going on in this. What do you think?
I thought it was a really solid issue. It didn't quite make my top 5, but I thought it was very interesting for her reaction to what she wanted. She's like, "No, I actually don't want him back." And then Hazel's like, "What? What do you mean? Like that's Dad.
Right.
Of course you want him back." And she's like, "Nope." And I thought that was really interesting. It was not Saga is great at reverting your expectations, and they did that here. And I thought it was a really solid story and a good character-driven story.
Who was the guy? I forgot the guy that killed that family at the end.
I think I don't know I don't remember who he is either, but
I remember
guess,
him, but I don't remember his name and his involvement in the book.
I think he killed like their gay friends, if I remember correctly. I don't
Yeah,
remember who did that, but
right.
I'm pretty sure it was him. But yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure either. I don't remember.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's the problem with it taking such that long hiatus. You don't remember everything that happens, right?
And when we say long hiatus, we mean like 4 years. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. This issue was good, and I like them playing around with that a little bit. And I love how Hazel's kind of just like, why would you not want him back? And then Prince Robot, the boy, he was upset at that whole situation too. So solid emotional beats for the issue. So let's hope it doesn't take any more breaks. Because I'm gonna get back into it, and then what happens? It's gonna be like, hey, just kidding, we're taking a break.
Luckily, they've been okay because they had the last one. They took a little bit of a break, but it was a reasonable break. I think it was like 3 or 4 months, so I could deal with that. Just not 2 years.
All right, so let's move on to number 4. So, Kat, what was your number 4 then?
Mine was Superman. We already talked about it.
Gotcha. Infamous Mike Manhattan wants the will dead.
I mean, he did kill off Margot, so.
Yeah, I still like him though. I think he's a cool character.
Oh yeah, he's very interesting.
Favorite character though is Lion Cat. That's my favorite.
I would say mine's Hazel, but Lion Cat is pretty good too.
Oh, he's just like the comedic relief in there. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
Oh, I said Hazel's mine, but I think Lion Cat's pretty good.
Okay. All right, so we are on number 4 for Brant.
Yeah, it's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TMNT 2 number 3. That's a mouthful. I thought this was a really good issue. I like that they flipped it. So this time, the Power Rangers actually became mutants, and they took on the forms of
that was
their
a cool
morphers.
Page.
Yeah, so they became like a Triceratops, Mastodon,
cool.
etc. Yeah, and Shredder is actually teaming up with them because he's mad that he got kicked out for Rita Repulse and wants to take over the world for himself. So he's going to team up with the Turtles and the Power Rangers to overthrow Krang and Rita. And then we get Casey's real motivations in all of this. So I thought the issue was really fun. There was a lot of action, a lot of strategy, a lot of heart to heart, and it's just a fun issue, I thought. And the art is always fantastic in this book.
It was very TMNT driven, which is why I didn't make my top 5.
Yeah,
but I did like the page again when they morphed into mutants. I thought was cool, and I think it's a good point A to point B. Like, all right, this is again like the motives that people have. Let's get to kind of the final battle. But it's obviously a great series. I just like Volume 1 a little bit more.
Yeah, I still do too. For me, I thought this was the best issue so far. So of this one.
All right. So my number 4 then, right? So we're going to go with Superman. So we already talked about that.
I do have a question from Infamous Mike Manhattan. Think we'll get a Power Rangers Radiant Black crossover in the future. I think it'd be really cool. I just don't know the rights situation of that. But I guess they had Power Rangers in DC crossover, but because it's creator owned, I again don't know the rights of that, but be very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Nightwing, issue 101.
What a disappointment.
I was so bored by this book. I was just like, oh.
At least there was a story, though.
I mean,
there was a story. I was just not interested in it. I really did not like the ending. I didn't like that. Oh, Nightwing's not actually Nightwing. I don't think the Titans were in it enough. I thought this book was too hyped, in my opinion.
Hyped? I didn't know it was hyped.
Yeah, people are saying like this is such a good big issue because now the Titans are like the new Justice League, and this is like their
but this had nothing to like. It didn't even feel like that.
No, it didn't. It felt like they were just there to help Nightwing out with the thing, or to investigate like why is there a dead body under our tower. That was it didn't feel like a Justice League type thing to me either.
Very forgettable issue. Like I was reading it and I'm like,
this is like a middle of a run filler kind of arc. That's what it feels like with this grinning man character.
Like every arc of Nightwing.
But honestly, I can tell you, like, out of all the issues I've read of Nightwing, I think this is probably like my least favorite issue.
It's really close. It was just kind of, I don't know what it was. I won't say it was boring for me. It was just not exciting. I guess that is the
story
definition
I
of
wasn't
boring, though. So.
expecting, right?
Yeah.
I wanted more. And I wanted more character beats. I thought, like, you have the Teen Titans. These are your besties. There was no moment where you get to really see them interact, at least prominently. There was, like, that beginning scene with the girl, the young girl. It was like, there's no actual character interaction.
Yeah, just like maybe like him petting Gar's head and saying, "You are our first favorite dog," or whatever. It's like, that's such a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But okay.
Weird. Yeah. All right. So, so far, there's a lot of books that I don't think we really like this week, but I know there are books that we like.
Yeah.
So we talked about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We talked about She-Hulk as well. So we're going to dive into our number 3. Hopefully there's something here. Brant, number 3?
Specs. Issue 4.
Specs. Oh, Specs is number 3. Okay.
Yeah. It was fine. I mean, it was still a good read. It was a solid ending. Just I liked a couple of books better. So that's all. But yeah, go ahead.
No, you finish your thought.
No, that was pretty much it. I was just gonna. I don't know what I was gonna do. But I mean, at the end, it was kind of like what we thought. Like the glasses are out there and they can be picked up again. Actually, they were picked up at the end of this thing, so we can see where they go. But I thought the end of the story was really interesting because, in a way, nobody got what they wanted, but in a way, they kind of did. So it was interesting direction to take it. And that's about the least spoilery thing I can say.
I thought it was a really good ending. I feel like there's so many miniseries that don't land the ending. I think Red Mother, is a really good example of that.
Yeah.
Where it started out so good, the middle was so good, and the ending's like, what happened there? So I love that this is such a tight 4 issues. It had something to say. It's very much, again, allegory about being queer, and the way they said it was really well done. Like, I love the idea that the one wish he wanted to make was for his best friend to love him. And he's like, I couldn't do that. And his reaction was really natural. And I'll continue to say, this is how you write queer characters. You just felt every moment. And I love that. I loved it because, again, it was in the 80s and he's just like, oh, okay, let me comprehend that,
Yeah.
So I love that scene. I thought it was interesting that he died of natural causes. We were doing our newsletter for Lifeline Comics, which is my publishing company. And I was going to write a little write-up about Specs. And then Phil's like, Phil's my business partner. I'll read the first issue and see what it's about. Just that way I have something to say. And then the next morning I woke up and I read his little blurb. I'm like, did you read the whole thing? He's like, yeah, I really liked it. I actually read all 4 issues that day. I was like, oh, cool. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. He's like, yeah, it was really good. And I think it really sucks you in. It's just it's a really good beginning, middle, and end. And I think they stick the landing.
Yeah. And I think it diverged from like the most expectant conclusions in every turn. So I really appreciated that as well.
This book really moved me, this final issue. What happened at the end, I didn't expect to happen, right? And so sometimes you think of a book like this, you're like, oh, they're going to make that final wish and then they're going to die. Like, what's going to happen? And all that didn't really happen. You know what I'm saying? And this whole story was him being at a funeral. Because his
doing the eulogy
died, and I was like, oh my God, I did not see that coming. And I was so moved by that. Like, I got upset, like I was tearing. And that's a special comic right there for me, right? When a book can do that, when a book can really get you vested in these characters and you feel that loss of a character's death. And in the entire book, you've always felt that relationship that they had with each other, those best friends. And you can relate as when you're a kid and you're growing up and you had your best friend, right? And whether you're gay or not, or whatever the case may be, if you lost your best friend, that just would mean the world to you, right? And so I thought about all my best friends I had in my life, and then when that boy lost his best friend, I just felt so sad for him, and him to speak at that funeral was like, wow, that just moved me. And then at the ending, you get to see those glasses go somewhere. It's much later in the future, obviously you can see that, but I loved it. I love this book.
And I thought it was really interesting that you didn't really know where you knew they were best friends, but you never knew, like, oh, do they see each other every week? Does he like visit him outside the town? Like, you didn't really know where they stood there, but you still knew that their bond was important to each other. Obviously, he wouldn't be giving the speech to the eulogy if they weren't important, but it was just really interesting to see how friendships change too, especially childhood friendships, where it's like, okay, I knew you since first grade, let's say, and we are still best friends, but we're best friends in a different way. And I really like that narrative as well. And like you said, Mike, I just thought it was such a special story. And this is why I love comics, is stories like this that feel personal and character driven and feel like it has, again, purpose. It's just a purposeful story. And you could tell that both the writer and artist just had such an emotional pull to it. You could tell they really cared about the story. And that, again, it has such a good beginning, middle, and end. I don't remember last time. Maybe Do a Power Bomb was, and obviously that wasn't that long ago, but it's just, that was the last time where I'm like, whoa, they kind of did that book perfectly. And I know perfect is a strong word, but I do think this is a perfect run.
It's definitely a good book. I mean, I remember I read that first issue and I knew it was going to be a special book.
Yeah.
When I messaged you and I said, you need to read this book, and you're like,
I'm glad
I'll check it out. Right. And so it was, what hooked you in this book was those specs. Right. And the secondary thing of this book really was those glasses. You know, someone pointed this out to me in my comments when I talked about this book. It's like The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead are the secondary things. It's the zombies, right? It's more about the characters.
Right.
And this book, in this short 4 issues that it came, you saw the growth of these characters, right? And what they were about. And that's what you could appreciate out of it.
Yeah. It's interesting, just thinking about like what my top 2 are, the frame of mind you are in when you read these books from week to week, and it could have a different week. This might have been my number 1, and I guess based on what I picked as my number 1 and 2, I think I needed something different this week, and that's another reason why it was a little bit lower. But and also why it didn't impact me quite as heavily as that, I think. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I was just in a different emotional space, I think. So
yeah. Absolutely,
is what it is.
For sure. And I hope people that don't read comics read this, because I really have been like putting it on to people. And again, obviously Phil does read comics, but he's not like a Wednesday warrior. He doesn't go to the comic book store every Wednesday. And that's why I was like, read this first issue. And then Dan, who worked on Still By with us, who again, Chris Sheehan was the artist for his story. I was like, you should probably read this because I think it's a really good story about queerness. But I also think, it's cool that the artist that did your story did this as well. And me and Phil were thinking, it's like, oh, it's kind of weird that he probably worked on our story for Still By at the same time he was drawing specs. It's like, oh man, that's so strange. But anyways, I really wanted to recommend that to people who like never got into comics. I think it's a really easy gateway. We do have a question here, shifting to our superhero stuff. Parker Lux says, so Nightwing and Spider-Man in the current issues are duds. I honestly understand that from Spider-Man point of view, but I'm not as connected to DC as you may think. Yeah, can either character come back? Great. I think there's a lot of people that like Nightwing. I just don't think it's us. Spider-Man, I have not found many people that have been enjoying this run.
I mean, they can always come back,
Sure.
Whether they can come back in these current runs, that's the question. But
so Superman's the perfect example, right? So it's like, as soon as people get word that Superman is a good comic again, people will jump on it again. Same thing. If you put out a couple good issues of Amazing Spider-Man, you get John Romita Jr. off that artwork, people are like, oh man, I heard that Spider-Man's good. People will jump back on it again. I mean, you hear people jump on titles, jump off of titles all the time. Not everyone is like us where we just keep reading it, right?
Yeah.
Not many people are like us with that. But I do think there is something to be said with Spider-Man that people might feel a little burnt out, or it's just like, oh, another new writer. I've done this already. Like, oh, I've been promised this before. So I do think there might be some people that waited out. You're like, let me see like the first 5 issues and see what people are saying.
Right. Okay, so let's see.
That was number 3 for Branch.
Yeah.
And I don't think I said mine. I don't think you said yours.
No, I said. Did I say Superman?
I think that was your number 4.
No, 3 was the Flash for me. Sorry.
Okay. And then mine was Local Man. So we talked about it.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I know for sure I would give $1,000 if you did not like Batman Superman World's Finest issue 12.
It's so
this
fun.
book was so good. Brand's not reacting. I don't know if he's
what. No,
he's reading comments. See
screens. No, I read it. I liked it.
I thought
it's not my top 5, but I liked it.
I thought.
Now I'm shocked.
As hell, though, man. I love this issue. Yeah, I thought it was so good, man. I was laughing the whole time. This is exactly what I was expecting when this issue came out. I was just like, they're going to go on this crazy awkward date. It's like, it's going to go all wrong. I'm like, and it did. Everything went wrong. And I just like how she didn't like how he was always talking about himself and he didn't have money in his pants. It's just, there were so many good moments in this comic book. I loved it so much.
It was a lot of fun. I agree. I enjoyed it. It's the way their date would have gone wrong. So it was like the perfect take on what would happen if those two dated, and I love that.
And I feel like it's a way to do a filler issue. Filler, I hate using that word because every issue means something and everyone's writing and art means something. But, just for the context of what it is.
A transitional issue. We'll say
transitional issue, exactly. But yeah, no, it's just like, it was fun. It's what World's Finest does best. It has a modern, fresh take on a Silver Age story. Like we totally would see, maybe Jimmy Olsen go on a weird date in Silver Age, but now you're seeing like Robin and Supergirl go on a very authentic, modern, weird date. Obviously with superheroes involved as well. So I had a really good time with this, and this is just such a phenomenal book, and it balances everything we love about superhero comics. So keep at it. Even though Dan Moore didn't do the art for this, I think it was Emanuela Lupacchino who did it. Yeah, it was also great.
It was hilarious though, man. I even like how like Robin was dressed in his superhero uniform in the restaurant, and she like all got stressing out over an outfit to wear, and she uses her X-ray vision, and she's like, "Oh man, this is so stupid. Like, why would you go in there dressed as your superhero?
Right.
Persona."
He's not smart,
especially because she knew his secret identity.
Yeah, it's so funny. All right, so good stuff. What do you guys think about putting Rick Remender on Spider-Man?
I don't think it matters if you put God on Spider-Man. They're still going to do the same thing over and over again.
Editorial, though.
Exactly. Yeah. It really doesn't matter. I think that's why it's so hard to be like, oh, I want this writer to be on it. Yeah, sure, if they have the full reins, I'd love that. But
if you were a writer on Spider-Man, I would make a contractual agreement and be like, I'm not writing a freaking character unless you let me do what I want to do on it.
I would want like a Robert Kirkman to come in and be like, I'll only return to Marvel, like you said, if I get to do what I want. And then I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is something actually new. Because again, we've had every writer under the moon write Spider-Man at this point. We had Kelly Thompson, we had Zeb Wells, we've had who's writing it now? Zeb Wells. But yeah, we've had so many different writers, and they continue to do the same thing.
I mean, you've had so many people. And
Tom Taylor is a great example.
Yeah. I mean, it would be insane if Donny Cates was to get well and he decided to come back and Marvel gave him Spider-Man. Would they give him free reign on Spider-Man? Because he got to tell a story in Venom, and Venom was selling more than Spider-Man. That's how popular that book became. So
I don't know if he would have. I don't know if he would have reign, but I think he'd be able to do kind of a Dan Slott thing where you don't touch the things that they don't like you to touch. Because, like, again, Nick Spencer, I think the thing that he did wrong, not wrong, but like the reason why maybe his run didn't go the way he wanted is because he's like, I'm going to tackle MJ and Peter. And Marvel editorial's like, I'm getting a little, cold feet here. Let's not do that. And then honestly, every run since has been trying to tackle this, the no-go of Marvel, which is MJ and Peter. And honestly, if the next writer does something, and that's why it made Dan Slott's run was so successful. He wasn't even allowed to write MJ. Right. She was hardly in the book.
Yeah. Why would you want this? Why would you want this? Absolutely not.
I'm confused because Tevye is saying that.
Yeah, right? That is not going to happen.
I also think he's in a different stage of his life. And honestly, this is coming from, and I'm sure you feel the same way, Mike, one of the biggest runs I ever recommend is Ultimate Spider-Man. Right. But the reason that was good was because Bendis was able to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Don't forget, Bendis wrote Miles when he came to the 616.
That's true.
And it was not good.
No.
It was not good. As soon as he came out of that universe, it went downhill from there. So, yeah. All right, let's move forward. Strange Academy Finals, issue 4. Another good issue. It's gotten to the point now where Emily is like completely dark side. Everyone basically betrayed her at this point. She's teaming up with Dormammu. Looks like there's going to be a battle that's going to erupt any second now. Just a really good issue too with the his name's Eric, right? That had to kind of leave Emily's side, go to the other side, ask for forgiveness, and Doyle gave him his forgiveness, and an emotional beat there. Overall, great story. One of Scotty Young's best stories that he has ever written, and Roberto Ramos's artwork is spot on in this comic. I love this comic book.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I could have, it's kind of weird to say considering it's an Academy book, but I could have done without the school stuff in this issue.
Sure.
I don't think it was needed.
Yeah.
And that's like the only negative thing I can say about the book, though. Other than that, I thought it was really good. And I love that, little by little, they've, left Emily and it's just made her madder and darker and just that has grown. Yeah. So now we're leading up to that big battle with Dormammu's army and everything. So it was really good.
Absolutely. Yep.
Nice beats.
Can't wait. All right. So let's move on to number 2. Kat.
Mine was World's Finest. We already talked about it.
All right. Brant.
Mine was Inferno Girl Red too. And
so one book I did not get a chance to read this week.
So you guys know how I felt about issue 1. It was like I wanted a little bit more.
Yeah.
So this issue, this issue was so much better for me, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. And kind of seeing her figure things out, and her mom like getting really into it, almost like a groupie for No Girl Red, and she was just like so excited by it, while her daughter is like completely overwhelmed and just not wanting any part of it. I thought that was handled really well, and and the moments with her and her roommate, kind of bonding over the trauma that they're facing and all that stuff, and I thought that was good. And her trying to like connect with the teacher's son and that not going well. So just a lot of little beats that I don't feel like I got in the first issue, and just the action parts of it were really fun, and the art obviously was good both times. So
that's so interesting because I liked issue 1 so much better than this issue.
I figured.
This one I thought I loved the action in the first issue. I liked the build up. I like learning about her. And I obviously didn't dislike this issue. It was like kind of in the middle of my list, but I like the first issue more. So I'd be interested to see what Mike thinks when he does end up reading it.
Yeah. I got 3 pages into it and I just didn't get a chance to
it's a longer book.
Continue it. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
I did get a question here. It says, Mike, a personal question to you. What was your favorite issue of Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man book? Or rather, if you didn't like it, I understand. But what was your favorite panel from his splash pages? Holy cow. Dude, I can't remember that at
That was a
all.
long time ago.
That's a long, long time ago. I mean, oh my God, I don't even remember what orders those books or what the stories were about, anything. Like, the only one I remember is maybe like when the lizard was chasing him, that issue, right? And then maybe the first issue. All I know is that the artwork in the book was pretty dark. And it reminded me of a lot of like how Spawn is, right? It did give me that vibe to it, but I always loved his artwork, and I did enjoy the Spider-Man series.
I know that was a personal question to Mike, but when I think of that run, I think of the 2-issue Subterranean story where he's in the black suit and has to go down in the sewers. That's the one that stands out to me. So
that's what the one with the cover where he's wearing the black suit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like a gray because it's against the stone and everything. Yeah.
Right. Yep. It's a fun series though. I got the omnibus right there of that series too.
Nice.
You fresh in your memory.
But yeah, it's flush. I haven't read it though. That's the thing. It's like I haven't read those books in years, man.
Yeah.
I read them out of order, so I couldn't even tell you. When I was reading that, I didn't know who was writing anything. So.
Oh, I can get it. Yeah, exactly. You're probably like super young and you're just reading random issues, not knowing any of that.
Yeah,
stuff, right?
I would just get back issues and be like, oh yeah, like I know it was Todd McFarlane, and I haven't read them since I was, probably 7 or 8. So
yeah.
All right. My number 2 was World's Finest, so that was mine. So
we had a very similar top 5.
Yeah,
I think we had Superman in the same spot. We had World's Finest. Yeah, we had a pretty similar top 5.
All right, and then we talked about Flash. So I am guaranteeing that Specs is Cat's number 1, and Specs is my number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So what's Brant's number 1?
Superman.
Okay, that makes sense.
I get it. Like I totally get it, right? I mean, I rated this book. For me, it was like my worthy ones. I always give them grades.
Yeah.
So I didn't give it an A+. I gave Specs an A+, just because of how emotionally driven that book was. And then Superman, I gave it an A. I thought it was a very worthy book, and I just was a little bit confused on the end, and I wasn't fond of the Parasite villain or whatnot. But I loved Superman in that book, like like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's like the best Superman I've read in such a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. So I guess that's all the comic books. We'll pass it on to Kat. Now we're going to talk about that news, the Ultimate Comic stuff, all that great things.
Yes. Now, before we do that, I know Brant has a Kickstarter. I have a Kickstarter. So, Brant, why don't you talk about your Kickstarter?
Yeah, so I've got a Kickstarter. It ends next Wednesday, so not much time, and honestly, we got a long way to go. But it is a cyberpunk fantasy series, and this is the second issue, or issues 1 through 2. You can get caught up. But yeah, it's follows a mercenary who's tasked with this terrible job that he has to take on that kind of sends the entire city after him. He's got a bounty on his head. 2 corporations are after him, all kinds of cybernetic enhanced assassins and ninjas and all kinds of bounty hunters. Even his friends are after him. So, and there goes Mike. Yeah, so it's a lot of action, a lot of drama, a lot of vibrant panels and dynamic layouts, speed lines galore. If you like that kind of thing, you'll love In the Land of the Dragon. So check it out at lastnumberpress.com/dragon.
All right. And yeah, for me, I'm going to screen share for a second. I have Hairology. We are inching closer to our goal. We have, I think actually we end on the same. When do you end, Brent?
Next
March.
Wednesday.
Okay, so we end a day after you.
Okay.
And we have about $6,000 left to get funded. So hopefully we can. And the book is all about hair. We have some wonderful creators here. Sterling Gates, who you might know for his Supergirl run. We also have Gail Simone doing a forward, which is really cool. So hopefully you guys can go check it out. All right, so let me also share the link here. So if you guys want to check it out, again, even $1 helps. You get 10 plus books, indie books with that, so you're really getting some bang for your buck. All right, let's get into the news here. So let's start with the ultimate news, of course. So of course, when we end our live stream the next day, something is announced, and that was the Ultimate Universe stuff. And if you guys don't know, Jonathan Hickman and Brian Hitch are returning, and they are bringing back the Ultimate Universe. And obviously, Miles is going to be at the center. And we've been teased about the Ultimate Universe coming back so many times, especially through Miles's book. So I'm definitely optimistically hesitant, let's say. I also don't usually love Hickman's writing, and I don't usually love Brian Hick's art, so I'm very nervous about it. And I hope something happens. I hope they're not just using the Ultimate Universe as a way to sell something. I really do hope this means something.
I thought when Brian Hitch worked in the Ultimate Universe, that was probably the strongest work for me. So hopefully he can kind of recapture that. But again, I feel the same way with like Hickman's. I'm very hot and cold with Hickman. But it's a 4-issue miniseries. We don't know exactly what's going to happen or where it's going to go. It's interesting to bring it back in the way that it's being brought back. So like the maker is trying to get Miles Morales back at the center of this to create a brand new universe by meshing the two together or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see like if we're going to see characters from the Ultimate Universe come into play with this, who's going to be on whose side. So I won't say I'm excited for it, but I'm definitely intrigued by it. So.
Yeah, look, we're going to buy it. I think the character that I would want to see the most is Jessica Drew. I think she was the most interesting from the Ultimate Universe that didn't cross over. Obviously, Miles, we would say, but he's already there. So I would say I would really want to see Jessica Drew. I can't think of anyone else. I mean, I know like Bombshell was a big character, but I'm like, I don't think I really need to see her.
Man, I miss her so much. She was a great character.
But she was in a 616. Like Bendis brought her back, and
but you haven't seen her since then, though. Like she hasn't been in here in so long. Like ever since we had Solomon Ahmed do Miles Morales, I don't think we've seen Bombshell at all.
No, I don't think so. It's
right. Yeah. But I am excited for this. I really am, because I think if they're playing around with this, I think this could lead to the return of some form or fashion of Ultimate Universe. And not only could you, I guess, bring back some of the old characters, but you can bring in some of the characters that are actually in the main universe into the Ultimate Universe. Kind of characters that don't have books or sitting around that you don't know what you could do with them. You know what I'm saying? So they could do something like that. But at the end of the day, like I would like to see Miles Morales maybe come back to the Ultimate Universe and his.
I don't think it's going to happen though.
Yeah. You don't think so?
No, I think that because he's been in the regular universe for so long, and because the movie's coming out, like I think a lot of people will get upset and be like, "Oh, well, you're saying Miles is not as important anymore." I don't believe that. I think Miles is a very important character. If he goes in the Ultimate Universe, he becomes even more important. But I think he's gonna be in charge of this event, and there will be people that go to the Ultimate Universe, but it won't be him. Maybe he'll go back and forth, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Right. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the Maker's still been around too. I think the last time I saw him was in the King in Black. He was a focal point in the Venom series.
Yeah, which wasn't so long ago.
Yeah, which is not terribly long ago. Yeah. But I'm excited for it. Do you know though? I never read the Ultimates. Like I never read.
I didn't either.
I read a little bit,
like
not a whole
Ultimatum.
lot.
I think it was right. I never read that.
I read pieces of Ultimatum. I've never read the Ultimates. The ones I read I always read Ultimate Spider-Man and I read Ultimate X-Men. Because I don't really like the Avengers. I'm like, I don't need to read this Avengers Ultimate Universe.
I read I might have read like the first volume of Ultimates from what I recall. It's been a while. But yeah, it didn't really, I don't know. I'd seen like a more militant version of the Avengers like team before, so it was okay, but I like the X-Men and Spider-Man stuff better, so I gravitated towards those.
So if the some shape or form of the Ultimate Universe came back, what would you want to see out of it?
I would want to see a new character kind of become the main focus because
The
obviously at
focal, yeah.
Peter, yeah, I would want to see like again a Jessica Drew or like a Bombshell or a Kitty Pryde, someone who was prominent in the Ultimate Universe, but now they're like putting the spotlight. Again, don't think that will be Miles. I think it will be a different character, and that's something I really want to see. And honestly, it would be really cool to see maybe a person of color or a female character, or like it'd be a cool thing to kind of put the whole universe to them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That could
Gotcha.
be cool. Yeah, just kind of kick it off with that new focal point at the center of it. Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I think this could be, honestly, I feel like when it comes to this feels like this could be something special, in my opinion.
I hope so.
Out of everything that they have announced, I feel like this has got some weight and it's got some really solid creators behind it. Like Hickman, I know we're not always all fond of, but I do like what he did with X-Men when he did, House of 10 and Powers of X. Like I like that story. Like that initial main story that first came out, right? I really enjoyed it. So I feel like if done right, I think he could do a good job. I think when he did the Avengers and he did the whole incursion thing, when the whole Ultimate Universe blew up to begin with, and then did Battle World, I thought that was really good too. I thought that main story was awesome. Secret Wars, I thought was great, man. And so I'm very optimistic about this.
All right. Well, that's go on.
All I was going to add to that is one thing that does give me a little bit of hope, and one thing that is really cool for some people, like we had one of the comments you popped up there. A lot of people started reading comics with the Ultimate Universe, so kind of revisiting that, and it's, I don't know. I think you could do something special if they do it right. So
yeah, if they don't want this to be a cash grab, because I think that's my biggest worry. But I feel like Hickman left Marvel, so like he's coming back for a reason. So I'm hoping it's like he wants to be here for a big project. Or we also know that Substack was not as successful as people wanted it to be. So that probably is also another reason why he returned to Marvel. Let's get into the media news here. So Steven Yeun, who's part of Walking Dead and obviously Invincible, is joining Thunderbolts. This seems like a very dark horse type film. They seem like they're putting a lot of weight towards it.
It's interesting because they say he's going to play a key role in the movie and possibly in the larger MCU. And now I'm like, which character is he going to play?
Yeah.
Now, I love the actor. I haven't seen him a whole lot, but he's Glenn's always been my favorite character of Walking Dead. And I thought he portrayed Glenn perfectly in that show. And I loved him in that show. So I'm excited to see him in something big again. But I'm trying to figure out which character he could be. Did you have something?
I have no idea who he could be. Yeah.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So the other big news was Something Is Killing the Children is getting a Netflix show, which, I mean, come on. If anyone was surprised that this was going to become a TV show.
It's always been an option, but I think it was just a matter of time of when it was actually going to happen.
Yeah. It was Mike Flanagan had it, I think, if I remember correctly, and they dropped it. And so I guess somebody else picked it up now. So that's great.
I believe it's people. I want to say people that do dark. Let me look to see.
That show's gonna blow up.
Yeah, creators of Dark in 1899. Oh, okay, yeah. Cool.
I agree.
That show will be huge.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be. I think he could be the next Robert Kirkman in that way. What are you gonna say, Brent?
Is 1899 the one with why is his name escaping me? The actor. Jeez,
I'm gonna look it up. I think it's from what I know, they're Swedish shows. I think because I know Dark is it's not an American show.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of something else then. Yeah.
But I think it'll be very interesting for Tiny. He's already a very successful writer in comics. I really do think he's kind of building this empire, and I'm excited to see the mainstream kind of figure him out, because obviously comic people know of him, but this is gonna be huge. This is I think the start of something very big for Tynion and comics in general. So it was a German show. I'm sorry. But I knew it was not an American show.
Yeah, I'm getting it confused with something else, but yeah, that's so cool.
Cool. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that, or we want to move on to some?
Whenever it happens, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there.
No, I'll definitely give it a shot. All right. So, Free Comic Book Day books have been revealed. Brant, you want to discuss this?
The only thing I wanted to say is it's funny. Like last time we talked about Free Comic Book Day books, I was talking about. I remember the days when they would launch events through it, and it felt more exciting and stuff. And it seems like they're actually doing that this year. So we're having the Ultimate Universe thing, we're having the Night Terrors thing, we're having all these kickoff books, which I think is cool, and I like returning to that way of doing those big books. So that's all.
Yeah, and I think like since COVID is done, pretty much behind us now, a lot of shops can get behind it again, and they can offer the full amount of comic books. And so, yeah, I hope it brings people into the shops, and it always gets people excited about comics. I mean, that's always the main thing behind it, right?
Yeah,
I agree for sure. Someone mentioned this in the comments, so I'm just gonna pull this up. Oblivion Song is getting a spin-off book called Void Rivals, and this is gonna be a new Kirkman book. I think I read the first issue of Oblivion Song, and it wasn't my thing, so I'm probably not gonna get this.
I read a few issues of it, and then I just fell off of it. I didn't find it the most exciting series.
Right.
So I don't know. I probably might not pick this up either.
It looks sci-fi-ish too, which is not.
It does.
Thing.
It does.
Yeah. Well, Oblivion Song's very sci-fi too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. All right, let's get into Superman's introducing a new villain in the next issue. So kind of has this almost James Tynion feel, where it's like, oh, we're getting all these new characters, and that gets people excited. So Marilyn Moonlight is the character.
I think the design for the character is really cool, and the fact that she embodies the spirit of Metropolis, I think that's an interesting concept, and takes you more underground. So it's going to be a different vibe, maybe. I'm looking forward to see what they do with the character.
Me too. Contest of Chaos teaser also there. That was another thing that people wanted us to talk about. I can never talk about teasers of events anymore. I'll wait until it happens, but I'm good.
I just looked at the poster and I was just like, so it's like, it looked like heroes versus heroes, and I was kind of like, well, what is this? Like, and then I'm like, man, we just have so many events. Like, what is there here to get so excited about? Like, why can't Marvel just sit there and say, dude, let's just slow it down a little bit and just let's let people digest their stories, That's what's just so frustrating. It's just like they just have an event and then it's like, let's go next one. It's like, oh my gosh, it just feels like that's what comics are. It's just like they feel like they have to have something big always going on, and that's just not the case. I just feel like you need individual stories, individual arcs, so your characters have time to grow. They don't grow, nothing changes if you're always having events.
Yeah,
I agree. Me and Brant agree simultaneously. We have a comment: 5 Marvel events in a year. Yeah, that's not for me. I'll stick to my She-Hulks and then do the little individual stories. Speaking of events, there's so much event talk in this news. We'll go to Night Terrors, which has been, we've already been teased about it. I won't say I'll give DC a benefit of the doubt because we just had Lazarus, whatever it's called, Planet. So now we have Night Terrors, which is a horror event and like more supernatural driven. Williamson is writing it. I might give it a shot, but again, I'm just so tired of events.
I'll say some of the art for that looked pretty awesome. Some of those, I don't know if they were covers or if they were what they were exactly, but they looked really good. But
I'm going to check it out just because it's horror. right? So
I'll
I'm
check
gonna
it out
check
because of
it out.
Williamson. But
Yeah, I mean, then at the same time, I'm like, man, how much can Joshua Williamson write here? Before he starts either one running out of ideas or two quality of writing not be good. So I don't know, but I'll definitely check it out.
I think he's exclusive to DC too. So that was a couple weeks ago. We talked about that. All right, more events. Star Wars crossover event is now happening as well because we get these every 6 months. I don't even read Star Wars, and I know somehow there's going to be a crossover event.
Yep. Star Wars crossover event. This is why I stopped reading crossover or Star Wars to begin with, because it was crossing over with all the books. It's just like this is why Marvel needs to like either talk with each other or whatever it is. When you have a crossover book with Star Wars and you have X-Men crossing over with all the other X-Men books and they're crossing over, and you got Spider-Man crossing over with all those, it's like you are almost forcing people or readers to buy all these books by doing this crossover event. If you do an event, contain it with just in the book itself. Like if you want to do Darth Vader, just do a Darth Vader story that has a Darth Vader thing. We're talking about the Flash, like 1 Minute War. That's a perfect example. Just keep it within the Flash. We don't need to cross it over between, a Wally West book, a Barry Allen book, an Irie book, a Jesse Quick book. They could have done that, but they didn't. They kept it within the confines of just that Flash, right? So yeah, too much.
Thinking about that money, that dollar.
That's
They
not gonna.
definitely
People
are.
are not gonna buy that. They're not gonna buy that.
No, I agree. I'm just saying
it's gonna hurt them in the long run, and I just don't get why they keep thinking that certain strategies are gonna work, and it's going to hurt them. They need to publish less and get better quality writers and artists, and I feel like you'll get more people buy books that way and less events.
But do you think? I mean, that's exactly what DC did.
Yeah, and also we don't know how well the Star Wars event sold. So like if it did really well, they're going to be like, yeah, we need to do another one of those. So it's hard. You can see it from both perspectives, but as a reader, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah,
and
but it's like no, but that's the problem about trying to get new readers on these books.
True,
right? It's just like, where do I start?
Right.
So
no, exactly.
That's the problem too.
It was interesting because I was trying to pick a book up. One of my mom's like patients, she was like, "Oh, like Kat, you're going to the comic book store. Can you pick something up?" Because he really likes Spider-Man. I'm like, "Sure." And he's like, "Oh, he really likes the cartoons of Spider-Man." I was like, "Cool. Let me see if I can get the Ultimate Miles Morales book." And I'm gonna go to my comic book store to see if they have it. But I was looking on Amazon first. I was like, "Oh, cool. Let's see if they have it." It's all out of print. It's just like even your backlog. It's just like those are like really good stories for Miles Morales, and you have this movie coming out, and you can only get a used version of those books. And I think it's crazy. And it goes back to like the Ultimate Universe conversations we were having. That was such a gateway for people. Like, what is the gateway comic? I mean, you do have Nightwing. I think that was a good gateway comic for people. And I think that is what DC has been doing, right? As much as you might not like Tim Drake, that is a gateway comic for somebody because it's a very new reader friendly. Those type of books are. Marvel, I could not tell you where to start with Marvel. I really could. Is there a book out right now, Billy, you could jump onto that?
Oh, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. I mean, if you wanted an all ages book. And I
know, not even all ages, even just let's say a 12-year-old kid who could read, teen book.
Strange Academy is the only thing that I can think of that because it's pretty much a brand new series. There's only 20 something issues of it, 22 issues of it. Yeah. And I think a kid can read that. And it doesn't really introduce the rest of the Marvel universe. It introduces all these other characters, but that is a book that they could jump on and get into comics with. That's a perfect book, I think.
And I think it's a shame, and obviously not even just talking about kids. Like, it just a couple of years ago was so easy to give like a Venom or a Immortal Hulk and be like, oh yeah, just read Venom. Just read Immortal Hulk. It's so easy. You don't have to read anything else. It's just very easy to get into. And I really can't think of anything being published now where I was like, oh, that's just really easy to get into. Just read that. There's no Runaways. There's no Miss Marvel. There's no Spider-Gwen. I mean, Miles has the book now, but is that really new reader friendly? Is it easy to jump into? Probably not. And I don't think it's selling the best version of that character, which is why I wanted to get the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. It was like, oh, I think that's selling the best version of that character. I'm probably just gonna end up getting the cartoon, the one that they have a Miles Morales Peter Parker like cartoon book. I'll probably end up getting that, but it's like, oh, it's such a shame because I want him to read like a book that's you could continue reading more stuff and not just a one-off.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that. All right, let's talk about other events here. Things that actually are easy to jump into. Radiant Black introduces an event, and this is the way to do it because they've been building it up. We've literally been building up to this event. It has to do with the characters, has to do with its mythos. I'm excited for this event because of that.
I'm super excited for it, and especially because on that teaser, it looked like there were 2 Radiant Blacks. And like, are they both going to be Radiant Black simultaneously now? What's going on with that? But it is crossing over with all of the Massiverse books. So if you're not reading all of them, be aware of that. So, I mean, it's just kind of what we were talking about. But at the same time, I am reading all of them, and I am very excited for this because I love Radiant Black, and I love the Massiverse. So.
I'm on this. I'm on this too. I think this is going to be really a lot of fun. But like Brant said, this is the way you build up an event. Yeah. Right. You just don't announce an event and then all of a sudden it happens.
Right.
It doesn't get you excited when you do that. But when your whole series has been leading up into
Since
this
issue
point,
1, yeah.
Right. You can't wait for that to actually happen. So that's the way you do it. And I am definitely on board with this.
And it took 25 issues for them to get to an event, which I love that too. So it makes it feel bigger. It makes it feel more special. You're bringing all these characters together for the first time. So it's like, okay, this means something.
And 25 is a milestone issue.
Yeah.
Right. So it makes sense to do it. And it's 2 years worth of storytelling. You know what I'm saying? So
for sure.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, that Supermassive book, that's where Radiant Red's continuing into, I believe. So
gotcha.
It's either Radiant Red or Radiant. It's one of the Radiants. I don't remember. One of them's continuing. No, it's Dead Lucky. Dead Lucky's are continuing into Supermassive.
Yes.
That's what it was.
For sure. So
So I just want to say I'm going to dip out. I'm not feeling too well. I know you guys only got a couple of topics left, but I'm just going to head on out. And I just want to take a quick second to thank everyone for watching the show. Since I'm not feeling well, I want to make sure I get my rest and, take care of myself here for a second. So, but I appreciate everyone watching. And then you guys tomorrow, I'll talk to you tomorrow on the chat. And hopefully you guys get all your comics.
So, yes. We will talk next week. Have everyone on and you feel better.
Yeah, feel better, mate.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. I appreciate it, everyone.
Bye. All right. We're going to just talk about these last 2 topics and we're just going to talk about most anticipated. So I just want to quickly talk about the Dark Horse. Is publishing Tapas titles, which is really cool. I think it's really important for the direct market to embrace some of these other avenues of making comics. Tapas is a great way. I think that's the only way. I always keep saying that it's the only way for this industry to grow is vice versa. Maybe Tapas, getting more Batman or more Superman or more Spider-Man, as we saw with Batman with Webtoon, and then having books that maybe the direct market does not even know exist to get them to read it. They are going to be graphic novels, which I do think is a whole nother market. I really do think the best avenue is to get like a 5-issue miniseries, kind of what Dark Horse did with the Comixology, some of the books, where they had like Scott Snyder, they got some of the floppies and then the graphic novel. But I know a lot of times for publishers, the floppies do not sell they don't make as much money off of them, and the graphic novels they do sell more. What is Tapas? It's just a Webtoon site. It's pretty much like Webtoon, but it's just run by a different company. So I think it's cool, and I hope we get to see more of this type of stuff going on. And we got T. Liam, who says, I dropped Radiant Black. That's sad. But it's not for everybody. That's understandable.
My favorite book on the shelves these days.
Yeah, I love it. But they are enjoying Rogue Sun, so that's good. I'm glad you're enjoying some of them. Let's get into the last topic, which is about Boom Studios' new slate. So they announced some of the books that are coming out, and I just thought it was cool that talking about graphic novels. Fence was a book I really enjoyed, and they brought it to a graphic novel, and I still read it. I was like, oh man, it's a shame. I really wanted to read this in single issues, and now they're releasing it in single issues again. So I thought that was pretty cool that we will be getting it as an ongoing series.
Cool.
And I think that was it. So why don't we go into the most anticipated?
All right. So looking over this real quick. Because Mike had picked certain things, I picked different things. So now I'm like, what do I actually want to talk about here? All right, let's just run down our three real quick. Mine are Shazam, The Fury of the Gods special, Rogan Gambit, and Murder World Game Over. What are yours?
Mine are Hunt, Kill, Repeat issue 1, Radiant Black issue 22, and Spider-Gwen Shadow Clone issue 1.
All right, and Mike's were Hallows Eve, Batman versus Robin, which I'm surprised to actually see that on there, and Murder World as well. All right, so let's talk about. I'll talk about the Shazam thing real quick.
That was close to my list actually, because I'm interested to see what they do with it.
Yeah, and it's cool because Zachary Levi and Adam Brody are writing stories in it. And if you don't know who they are, Zachary Levi plays Shazam, and Adam Brody played a comic book geek on OC. So there you go. So I think that's cool, and obviously it focuses on the family. It's a huge oversized book, so it's gonna have a lot of stories. So hopefully it's good. Let's talk about Hunt, Kill, Repeat. What is that?
So I think that's from Mad Cave.
Yeah, it is Mad Cave. You're right.
And I was just looking for books, honestly. So I was like, oh, what's coming out? And I read the introduction to this, like the little premise. I was like, oh, actually, this sounds pretty cool. So just to read the premise, it's a Kill Bill meets Clash of Titans already. Awesome. And Hunt, Kill, Repeat, the all-new action-packed series by Mark London. When the Greek gods invade Earth, society is quickly forced to comply with their new rulers. However, one god, Artemis, rejects her ideologies and has found solace in the love of Immortal. When she's called to Olympus to answer for her betrayal, the gods strip away her godly powers and lead her for dead. Now, 10 years later, Artemis is on the quest for revenge against her father. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, no, it was solid. And as you started reading, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't. I looked it up, but I could not remember for the life of me what it was about. But no, it does sound really interesting. So Mad Cave does some really cool stuff. So
no,
very cool. Rogan Gambit is on my list because it's the artist that did Exterminators. So at least visually, it's going to look really good. Whether the story does it or not, I don't know, but I'm going to try it out. We talked about Batman versus Robin earlier, and I know you're not super excited about Hallows Eve, so we'll skip.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all gonna get Hallows Eve, right?
I'm gonna get it, especially because it's not much. It's not a big week. If this was like this week, I might have been like, oh, I don't need to read Hallows Eve, but I'm gonna pick up Hallows Eve and see what it's about. I don't know if I can pick up issue 2, but I'll at least pick up issue 1.
Yeah. All right. So Radiant Black. 22, almost there. We're already up to 22. 25 is where that event starts. So
I will say this week was a weird week because there wasn't anything where I'm like, I literally can't wait to read this book like this week. There's so many books like World's Finest, Specs. There's so many books I love. There's a lot of, and I like Radiant Black a lot, but we are in a place where it's like we're building to something. There's not anything too exciting happening right now, but of course it's Radiant Black. So for a week like this, I had to put in my top 3, and it wasn't even in your top 3 this week.
Again, I was trying to pick some different stuff, and I've been listening to you every time we talk about these, and you're like, I can always shine the light on this or that. And so I'm like, well, you know what? Radiant Black, every time it comes out, it would automatically be in my top 3. So I'm going to pick something different this time. So
yeah, makes sense.
So let's talk about Spider-Gwen Shadow Clones. I'm not excited for this. And I don't
I
know why.
agree on that. I'm
Okay.
anticipating it,
You're
but I'm not
gotcha.
excited because I didn't love the last volume. And it's a mini series, and I'm like, oh man, it's just gonna be another filler with Spider-Gwen where they're just utilizing her name to tell stories that don't actually progress our plot. So I can't say I'm excited, but I'm most anticipating it because I love Spider-Gwen.
Exactly. Of course. Yeah. No, I get that. I am anticipating and excited for Murder World Game Over, which was also Mike's number one. So this is the finale of the story that we've been raving about the whole time. It's been a really solid read. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend once they collect this thing just to read the whole thing because it is fun. And now Black Widow's involved, so I can't wait to see how this all wraps up. So, and that is our most anticipated.
Yes, it is. I did see a question about Zest World, I think, in the comments. Comic Toby said, is all this information available on Zest World, or do they not discuss the big two there? So Zest World is kind of like a Webtoon Tapas website. We are part of it. Slice Life has a big role on there. But it's also kind of a Substack website where you get to do your newsletters, where I do my newsletters. And there are a lot of big two people on there, but doing their own creator-owned stuff. So Dave Marquez is on there, Joel Jones, Phil Jimenez, Alex Agora. There's a lot of great creators. So definitely go check it out. I'll give the link if you guys never been on Zest World. There's a link to our newsletter, but definitely go and check out all the other stories there too, because it's a really cool platform. But yeah, that's the end of our show. So Brant, any closing remarks before we close it out?
Yeah, if you haven't checked out my my YouTube channel, onlygoodcomics.com will take you there, and I do new videos on Mondays. This week's actually was Superman issue number 1, so you can go check out my full thoughts there on that. And again, my Kickstarter ends next Wednesday. We need a lot of help, so if you're into comics and supporting indie comics, go check it out. That's it.
Awesome, and yeah, go check out Hairology as well. There we have around the same amount of time. We have not funded yet, so it'd be great if we could fund. And also subscribe, ring that bell, follow our social medias, and of course, like this video if you enjoyed it. And hopefully you guys liked it. And we'll be back, of course, on we'll be back next week. So we'll see you guys then.